Well, good afternoon, everyone. After a long wait, it is official. Edmonton chose independent leadership with real solutions that will move us to a stronger city together. This victory belongs to all of us. To every single worker, whether you build, teach, drive, fix, care, serve, or create, thank you. Thank you to our volunteers who shared their precious time and who believe our city can and should be a beacon of kindness, hard work, and progress. This campaign was fueled by passion, grit, and tenacity. Everyday Edmontonians spoke loud and clear, choosing optimism and hope over big money and party politics. We can build the city we deserve. We can lead with our hearts and compassion to deliver real solutions for safer neighborhoods, more housing, strong public services, and real accountability at City Hall. Thank you to my friends and family.
You got this.
For lifting me up and supporting me with love every day, especially when things weren't easy. Campaigns are not easy, and I want to thank and recognize Tim Cartmell for his service. We did not always agree, but your voice is important. And to Raheem Jaffer, your campaign was based on civility and respect. Thank you. We need more of that in politics. Thank you to Michael Walters for your passion and for such a well-run campaign. And to Dr. Omar Mohammed, your story of perseverance reminded us all to shine brighter together. With 200,000 new neighbors in our beautiful city, Edmonton continues to build as a city of possibilities. With exceptional growth comes opportunity. No doubt there are problems, but with all this momentum, we are building to a new moment. A moment where every new business knows the city has their back. Where we welcome new families and every student who stays here to build their career, and with every senior who calls our city home. Over the last 12 years on City Council, and throughout this campaign, I have listened to tens of thousands of Edmontonians, and I will continue to listen. Parents tell me they don't feel safe on their way to the library. I heard how the daily commute is a grind on the quality of life. People sleeping rough want a real chance for a home. We will take action to make your neighborhood safer and make our main streets more vibrant and welcoming, especially at night. We will continue to invest in the services and infrastructure that make your life better by fixing roads and keeping recreation spaces and libraries open, accessible, and affordable. Because these things are not frivolous, and it's what you deserve. We will focus on protecting good jobs, and growing new ones by expanding the private sector and keeping public services in public hands. To our partners in the provincial and federal government, Edmontonians have spoken. They want those experiencing homelessness and addictions to have support and housing. They want to feel safe in their communities. They don't want backroom deals on major projects. They want fair and equitable investments that help our province's capital city grow and prosper. I will always meet in good faith, and I will be clear about what Edmontonians need and how the city will lead. We won't agree on everything, and that's okay. What I will push for is how we work together, by listening to one another, by being open, by learning from one another, to do the work, to build a stronger Edmonton. Congratulations as well to our regional partners and their new councils. I look forward to our ongoing collaboration. And finally, to Edmonton's incoming council, congratulations. I can't wait to get to work with you. And let's get to work together. Thank you, everyone. And now, there are the questions.
Again, Mayor-elect Knack, what will be your day one priority when you get into office?
I've talked about this from the start, that it is critical for me to sit down with the next council immediately and to make sure we are working on a shared vision that works to make Edmonton more affordable, more safe, and one that is keeping up with our rapid population growth. And we won't always agree as a new council in the specifics, but I think we're all going to be working towards the exact same vision because we've heard from Edmontonians what they expect from us.
And, you know, we've heard a lot through this campaign that people want to change, but you have a lot of incumbents likely coming back to council. Yourself, a former councillor. There's going to be a lot of familiar faces on that council. What do you think the message was in the end?
Again, I'll come back to, we heard in every community. And this is the first time in my time running for office where it was consistent whether I was in the very edge of the city, whether I was in a mature neighborhood, or anywhere in between, that Edmontonians are looking for a stronger Edmonton, that they are looking for a more affordable city, a safer city, and one that is keeping up with that population growth. And so what I think Edmontonians have said is that they have sent a group of councillors and a mayor to go work on those specific issues each and every day. That has to be our focus. That has to be our relentless focus going forward.
So you were one of the only candidates that wouldn't really shy away from tax increases, like I know especially above population growth and inflation. I know that there's a lot of Edmontonians that are going to be really upset with that. What is your message to those Edmontonians?
Something I've said throughout this campaign is that there was only one person, current or former councillor, that has made motions that have successfully reduced the operating budget. And I'm fortunate to be the person that was doing that. And so when I talked about building a responsible budget, it means I'm going to continue to look for efficiencies the way I always have as a councillor. I was the one that initiated the new process that this next council is going to go through, where we review every single branch. And the other thing I want to do is make sure that we're going out into the community and engaging Edmontonians on this in a thoughtful way. But we do need to still invest in our city. I talked about this as well. You know, we're short 4 fire halls in different parts of the city. We still need to invest in roadways and in transit. And so there is a cost to that, and that was always my message, is that I'm going to be honest with Edmontonians about what it takes to have a great city, but we're going to work together to find ways to make sure we're building a responsible budget.
Can you say a bit more about how and why this campaign was successful given the disparity in fundraising and financing?
Yeah, I can't wait to see the dollar per vote count. I would say, I would say, yeah, it's still amazing just how little money we had compared to everyone else. But we had the people. And when I talked about thanking the volunteers, like the amount of effort and time that everyone put into this campaign, like it's incredible to see how many people we reached, how many communities we were able to engage, the creative ways to engage, right? And that was it. We didn't have the money. So we had to figure out different ways to get in front of Edmontonians. You know, we had volunteers. Some of us walked literally 52 kilometers from one end of the city to the other to try to connect with Edmontonians in ways that maybe you can't always do, right? We didn't have the money for a mail-out. There was Canada Post strike anyways, that wasn't going to help very much, but we had volunteers delivering flyers by hand, right? All of this was done in the same way I've run campaigns as a councillor, which is be in front of Edmontonians in as many different ways as possible, but it's that face-to-face, it's that over the phone, it's the replying directly to emails, that's how we did this. And it was such an incredible team effort led by just some of the greatest leadership, Julie and Gabby and Pam. Whew. Yeah.
And just more on sort of the message you think that this election is sending, or that voters have sent in this election. You know, do you see this as a bit of a referendum on, you know, provincial changes and parties and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think we saw a very clear rejection of party politics in Edmonton right now. And I mean, from what we see in Calgary, it looks like Mayor-elect Jeremy Farkas, also independent. I think Edmontonians and Calgarians said exactly what they said of 2 years ago when they were asked if they wanted this. They said no. Over 70% of people said they didn't want this. And we saw the election results loud and clear that people that ran as independents, that's what people want. They want people who are going to listen to all Edmontonians. It doesn't matter if you're on the right or on the left in the center. There is no right-wing way to clear snow off the streets. There's no left-wing way to cut our grass. You know, we just have to work together as humans, and that's what we do, and that's what this campaign was, and I think that's the message we've seen loud and clear in this election.
Over a year ago, you announced you weren't going to run as councillor, and here you are. What changed and what got you to this point?
You know, there were a number of things that changed from that announcement about a year and a month ago. You know, I think about, you know, we had a U.S. election where we saw the re-election of somebody that maybe doesn't add to the positivity and decorum I hope to see in politics. We saw a federal election where we have the same governing party but a new prime minister. We saw provincially discussions about things like separation, which I don't think add a lot of value at a time where there's so many other priorities. Our current mayor made a decision not to run again. And I think the biggest one is what we just talked about, the introduction of local political parties. I felt so strongly about that from the very beginning, that was a system that is too toxic to come into our local government, that needed to be sent away so that we could continue to do the work that we do each and every day. And so that really drove me to be motivated to engage others, to see if there was a role I could play in this election. And I'm so fortunate that Edmontonians are going to give me this great privilege to serve them as their next mayor.
And you spoke just about the backroom deals in your preamble. And I have to bring it up that you were strongly against the Oilers fan park deal.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's been approved.
Yep.
Is there a way that this council would revisit it, or are you committed to it?
Yeah, that deal has been finalized by council. We're not going to revisit that. I've expressed my concerns with it. I think we could have used that money for far more important things, to address safety, to address affordability, to address housing. But that decision is made. I'll honor the decision of council, and we're going to work forward to make sure that any money coming forward from the provincial government is focused on what's best for Edmontonians instead of what's best for particular businesses. I think the same way I did, it's funny, I was almost excited that today was the day they announced it, because 12 years ago today was actually the first day I was elected. And when I was elected 12 years ago, I didn't get over 50% of the vote. And I made a commitment at that time that my job as a councillor is to engage not just those that voted for me, but every single person that didn't vote for me, to find out why they didn't, to find out the things that they cared about, to find out the issues that they want me to work on. And I made a deliberate effort over my time as a councillor to build common ground, to find those common solutions. I mean, so much so that from the 2013 election to when I ran in 2017, at the kickoff of our 2017 election, the person that introduced me and endorsed me at that kickoff was actually the person who had finished second in the 2013 election, because I made a commitment to engage everyone. That's what I've been doing for 12 years. It's why I host so many town halls. It's why I've been doing everything possible to get in front as many people as possible, and that's what I'll be doing as their next mayor.
You said there was no right way or left way to clear the streets of the snow, of cutting the grass. There is a left and right leaning way of solving homelessness, building housing, tackling security issues in downtown. What's your approach to these issues?
Well, I think what we've heard and quite clearly on safety and security is that, and especially, is there are two components to this, right? It is both an enforcement piece, but it's also a prevention piece. So when we're hearing about an issue like transit safety as an example, while we've increased the number of transit peace officers over the last 2 years, there's still a desire to see more, and I think we do need to continue to fill that gap. We don't have full coverage where we would like. But we need to make sure we're partnering those transit peace officers with social workers, with healthcare workers, people who can respond to those who are using our transit centers as a refuge, as a shelter. And that's why throughout this campaign, and it's a message we've sent very clearly, that we're not going to wait anymore for the provincial government to act on housing and homelessness, on mental health and addictions. I'm going to do my best to work with them, but we are spending too much money each and every year managing this crisis. So we need to start using that money in a way that actually solves this crisis. So it's both treating enforcement, but also making sure we have prevention, building housing, getting people the care and support that they need in our city. Because what I found is that when the issue of safety came up across the city, the number one thing people mentioned when they talked about safety was actually not policing. It was housing and homelessness. It is widespread. We are seeing this now. I can go out, and I did, to communities like Allard at 41st Avenue Southwest, and there's encampments there. There's encampments in every corner of the city. And so that is what people are referring to, and they want to help. They want to provide greater support, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to take the lead on that while making sure that by taking the lead on that work and focusing more on prevention, we free up police to actually focus their efforts on serious crime.
And more generally, do you think the city is heading in the right direction? How can you bring change if you compare it to the previous council, which we're a part of? Because some say this was a change election. How will you change things?
Well, every person, every councillor will have their own way of doing things, but I think at the end of the day, what comes down to is Edmontonians got to make the choice. They got to decide who they wanted to send to City Hall to work on those issues that they're passionate about. And so I know that I'm excited to work with our returning councillors. We're going to have at least a few new councillors, and that's going to be great to have both that experience coming back, but also some of those fresh ideas coming forward. So no matter who comes forward, because I know not every decision has been, or every race has been resolved at this point, I'm looking forward to sitting down with every member of council within this first week to talk about what matters to them, what they were hearing, and then how we're going to work together to tackle those issues.
Hi,
Yes.
Karen Cisa, Canadian Press, and you mentioned it in your remarks, so I'm sure you're familiar with the tensions between the province and Edmonton City Council. Under the last council, the relationship faltered. I'm wondering, how do you plan to work with the province to, better that relationship? How do you plan to do better than your predecessor?
I'll go back to the same way of when I was asked the question of how do you engage those that didn't vote for you or who might think differently. It's about actually sitting down and having a genuine conversation, being willing to understand different perspectives, being willing to share your perspective and hopefully learning from one another. I've had great success over my 12 years of working with different provincial governments and different federal governments to secure funding for projects like the Valley Line West LRT, the single biggest infrastructure project in our city's history. That was something I worked on as a councillor with the provincial government and the federal government to secure funding. We're going to need to work together as best we can to find that common ground and tackle those issues. And I'm looking forward to it because I've been doing that for 12 years. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to doing that as mayor. And I'll add, the last 6 years I've been fortunate to serve as the council rep on the Board of Alberta Municipalities, which has given me the chance to engage with a lot of different members of both the current provincial government and the opposition. And we've always found that in those conversations, there's so many areas where we share similar interests, where we have common goals. And so there will of course be some areas where we have differences of opinions. And I've said that I will be sure to stand up for Edmontonians, to be firm on that, but to make sure that we're also finding the common ground when we can.
So under your leadership.
One last question, please. Thanks.
Just under your leadership, can you see that relationship between the council and the province improving?
Absolutely.
To that point though, you've been outspoken online against some of the moves made by the UCP.
Yeah.
Do you expect to take a harder line than your predecessor on that relationship?
Only if Edmontonians' voices aren't being heard. Right? But I'm looking forward to the opportunity to find that common ground from the start, because I think a lot of the issues that this provincial government cares about are issues that we've heard about at the doors. Things like safety, things like affordability. I do find that there's going to be great areas to stand up and share that common interest and work on a common goal. But again, this is why I've spoken particularly on housing and homelessness, where I'm not going to sit back and wait anymore either. So we need to be willing to stand up, to use our voice, to be firm when needed. But my goal is always collaboration first, and be firm when I absolutely need to.
Great, thank you very much, media.
Thanks, everyone. All right. So now we all just hang out here and stand. Okay, there we go. Feel free to come back at 7 o'clock tonight. We're going to have our volunteer party, and I'll have a longer speech as well for some other things. So we'll be doing that tonight at 7. Okay, let's do this. Hold on.
Yeah.
One at a time.
And I think City is going to be doing a quick conversation with you right now.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a
Okay,
bit
that's
of a-
one. Who's this?
I think this might be.
Is that you?
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Keep your